Seth Rollins terrified as Roman Reigns returns with new Shield and declares war on Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman faction. Seth Rollins has never been afraid of anyone. Until now. At least, that's what he told us. But last night? That smile cracked. Because Roman Reigns didn't just come back, he came back armed. Armed with a new Shield. A new mission. And a message that hit like a sledgehammer. Seth. You betrayed me once. Now I finish what you started. The crowd didn't cheer. They froze. This wasn't Roman, the tribal chief. This was something colder. More dangerous. And when he pointed at Paul Heyman? Even Paul backed away. What happened to their alliance? Why is Roman targeting Rollins? And who the hell are these new Shield members? This isn't a comeback. It's a declaration of war. And Seth Rollins? For the first time in his career. He looks like the hunted. Seth Rollins has made a career out of smiling in the face of chaos. Laughing through beatings. Dancing through rivalries. Talking over booze. Wearing pain like it's part of the costume. He's not just the architect. He's the escape artist. The man who took a chair to his brother's backs, walked away from the ashes of the Shield, and somehow built an empire out of betrayal. He outmaneuvered Triple H. He outlasted Brock Lesnar. He outshone Cody Rhodes. For over a decade, Seth Rollins has been untouchable. Unshakable. Unafraid. Until last night. At exactly 9:52 p.m., during a sold-out Monday Night Raw in Chicago, the lights went black mid-promo. Not a flicker. Not a glitch. A full, suffocating blackout. The crowd roared, at first. Then came a sound. Familiar, but wrong. That Shield siren, but distorted. Slower. Gritty. Almost violent in its rhythm. The Jumbotron didn't light up with the classic Shield logo. Instead, red static flickered like a corrupted signal. A single phrase burned through the haze, then the lights came on. Roman Reigns stood at the top of the ramp. Hooded. Black tactical gear. And behind him, two massive silhouettes. Faces hidden. Standing like soldiers. The crowd didn't cheer. They froze. Because Roman wasn't smirking. He wasn't holding a championship. He wasn't posing with gold or flanked by the Usos. This wasn't the tribal chief. This was something colder. Something far more dangerous. Seth's face said everything. That arrogant grin, gone. That laugh, dead in his throat. His hands, once animated, now clenched the microphone like it was the only thing grounding him. And Roman? He walked. Not fast. Not slow. Methodical. Like a predator that already knows its prey is cornered. Paul Heyman, who had been whispering in Seth's ear seconds before the blackout, took a step back. Then another. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. His eyes were wide. Unblinking. He'd seen this Roman before. But not like this. Reigns stopped inches from the ring apron. The crowd still hadn't found their voice. Then he spoke, low, clipped, surgical, "You betrayed me once. Now I finish what you started." Then he pointed. Not at Seth. At Paul. The Shield fell in 2014 with a chair shot heard around the world. But that was business. That was ambition. Roman understood that, eventually. This wasn't about winning titles. This wasn't about tribal status. This was personal. Intimate. Surgical revenge. Because somewhere in the past few months, while Roman Reigns was absent from WWE programming, something shifted. Something snapped. The once unshakable alliance between Roman and Paul Heyman evaporated into thin air. And now, with the return of Reigns, not as the tribal chief, but as the silent leader of a new Shield, all that buried history resurfaced. Only this time, it was laced with venom. What did Paul Heyman do behind Roman's back? What did Seth promise him in the tribal chief's absence? And most importantly, who the hell are the two men standing behind Reigns like shadows of a broken past? Let's talk about that moment. The split second when Roman locked eyes with Seth from across the ring. It wasn't rage. It wasn't fury. It was surgical. Calculating. Like a man who's already written the ending, and just showed up to collect on the execution. Seth tried to speak. Microphone to his lips. But no sound came out. It wasn't a scripted silence. It was real. The kind of silence that speaks louder than any promo ever could. Even Michael Cole hesitated before speaking. I don't know what we're witnessing, folks, but this doesn't look like a return. It looks like a warning. It was more than that. It was a declaration of war. Crowds usually cheer for returns. They chant holy smoke. They chant welcome back. They stand and lose their minds. Not this time. When Roman stood on that ramp, Chicago didn't cheer. They didn't chant. They didn't even breathe. They just watched. Because the energy in the room changed. The same way it does right before a storm breaks the sky open. Or right before a fight no one wants to admit is about to start. Roman didn't come back to reclaim. He came back to erase. Let's talk about that name, the Shield. It once meant unity. Brotherhood. Justice. Now? It's been reforged into a weapon. The two men standing behind Reigns aren't brothers. They're soldiers. They aren't equals. They're executioners. This isn't the Shield 2.0. This is a funeral dressed in black gear. And Rollins? He's the eulogy. After speaking just 10 words, Roman dropped the mic. Not slammed. Not theatrically thrown. Just released it. Then he turned. His soldiers followed. No attack. No beatdown. Not yet. Because this wasn't about violence. This was about fear. And Seth, for the first time in his career, looked like a man who finally understood what he'd created. He killed the Shield. And last night? It came back. What was supposed to be a routine in-ring promo turned into the most shocking moment in recent WWE history. Fans packed inside the United Center expected fireworks. Instead, they got silence, followed by shock, and then a storm that hasn't stopped brewing since. Seth Rollins was in the middle of addressing his newly formed alliance with Paul Heyman. Standard Rollins material. Smug delivery. Trademark laugh. A few jabs at Roman Reigns' absence, calling him a fading ghost of a forgotten empire. Typical Monday night arrogance. Then everything went dark. And not just in the arena. Backstage monitors went blank. Commentary feed cut for 4.3 seconds. The production truck lost contact with the main board. According to internal WWE sources, the power grid was intact. No technical malfunction. No scheduled cue. The blackout was not planned, at least not by production. This is where the story fractures into before and after. Before the blackout, Seth Rollins was the confident world heavyweight champion, flanked by Paul Heyman, grinning at the camera. After the blackout, he looked like a man trying not to drown in his own shadow. The siren hit first. That familiar, goosebump-triggering sound from the Shield's original entrance theme. But it was wrong. Slowed down. Corrupted. Dragged through a layer of digital static that made it sound less like a war cry and more like a warning siren before impact. Then came the flickering screen. No logo. No entrance video. Just red static. And a message. Justice is dead. Now comes judgment. When the lights snapped back on, Roman Reigns stood at the top of the ramp. Dressed in black tactical gear. hood over his head. Unmoving. Unblinking. And behind him, two new figures. Unknown. Unnamed. Both massive. Both standing shoulder to shoulder like phantoms of the past. In that moment, the temperature inside the arena dropped. That isn't metaphor. Several audience members reported a chill, whether from the AC or adrenaline is unclear, but the atmosphere changed. Roman didn't raise his arms. Didn't yell. Didn't make a scene. He walked. Slow. Measured. Deliberate. From the ramp to the ring, the camera didn't cut away once. No shaky cam. No dramatic zoom. Just a steady, locked-in shot of Roman Reigns walking to the ring like a man returning to the ruins of a kingdom he once ruled, and now intends to burn down. Paul Heyman moved first. He stepped behind Seth, a rare show of hesitation from the man once known as the wisest man in the room. His mouth twitched. His fingers clutched the rope. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even breathing through his nose. He looked like a man who just saw his future implode. Seth tried to keep the act going. He smiled. He raised the mic. Look who decided to finally show up, but his voice cracked. Barely perceptible. But audible. That crack told the story. Roman stopped at ringside. Then he stared. Not at Seth. At Paul. There was no music. No commentary. WWE let the moment breathe, and it suffocated the arena in tension. Then Roman spoke. You betrayed me once. Now I finish what you started. 10 words. That's all it took to drop a nuclear charge into the main event scene. Then he pointed at Paul Heyman. And the internet detonated. Within 30 minutes, #RomanReturns was trending at #1 worldwide. Theories, reaction videos, replays, slow-mo frame-by-frames. Every pixel of the return was dissected by fans and insiders alike. Theories ranged from the plausible, Reigns is forming a new faction to reclaim dominance, to the outlandish, the new Shield includes Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, signaling a full Samoan dynasty rebirth. But no one can deny the impact. This wasn't a return for the sake of nostalgia. Roman didn't come back with pyro or theme music. He didn't stand on the announce table or cut a 10-minute promo. He didn't even climb into the ring. He just made a statement. And it landed. Seth Rollins didn't retaliate. He didn't mock. He didn't even respond. For the first time in years, Rollins was silent. After Roman and his two unknown soldiers turned and left, the segment ended without fanfare. No run-in. No brawl. Just that tension hanging in the air like smoke from a fire that hasn't even started burning yet. Backstage sources report that Roman's return was kept tightly under wraps. Only 4 people reportedly knew: Triple H, Nick Khan, Roman himself, and the 2 new faction members, identities still unconfirmed. Security footage from backstage shows Roman arriving in a black SUV with tinted windows, escorted directly through a private loading dock entrance with no security detail. He did not enter catering. He did not speak to any talent. He arrived. Waited. Walked out. Delivered his line. Left. No interviews. No follow-up. No contact. As for Paul Heyman, he reportedly left the arena immediately after the show ended. Uncharacteristically silent, he exited through a rear hallway and ignored all post-show media requests. WWE officials are currently scrambling to assess what happens next. No official statement has been released. Seth Rollins has not posted on social media since the incident. WWE's digital team has only uploaded a single caption-less photo of Roman Reigns' return on their Instagram account, a shot of him standing on the ramp in black gear with the caption, "Judgment." This moment has already changed the trajectory of WWE's summer. Roman Reigns isn't coming for a title. He's coming for people. And right now, Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman are both at the top of that list. The Shield is back. But it's not here to protect. It's here to bury. When Roman Reigns walked down the ramp, the immediate focus was on him. Naturally. His presence, his aura, the sheer gravity he carries, it was magnetic. But anyone who watched closely knows that what stood behind him may prove even more dangerous than the man himself. Two men. No names. No music. No facial expressions. No mannerisms. Just war machines. They didn't move unless Reigns moved. They didn't react to the crowd. They didn't flinch when Seth raised the microphone. And they didn't break formation once. This wasn't a random pairing. This wasn't two newcomers hoping for a spotlight. This was calculated. Because Roman Reigns doesn't return without a purpose. And he damn sure doesn't bring backup unless that backup means something. For years, fans associated the name The Shield with justice, unity, and calculated force. Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose weren't just a faction, they were a movement. Tactical. Ruthless. Unstoppable. But this version? It isn't built on trust. It's built on vengeance. Let's break it down. First, let's talk about the gear. All three men wore black tactical vests, echoing the classic Shield look, but there were crucial differences. Roman's vest bore a subtle crimson X across the chest, stitched, not painted. Symbolic of a target? A betrayal? Or a war path? We don't know yet. The two new members had no identifiable insignia at all. No initials. No stylized logos. Their masks were full face and matte black, covering everything but their eyes. Tactical gloves. Combat boots. And a patch on each arm, red slash marks. 3 diagonal lines. A code? A count? This wasn't nostalgia. It was ritual. Let's move to body language. Wrestling is theater, and body language tells the story most fans miss. The figure on Roman's right was slightly taller, broader in the shoulders. He walked with a heavy step, more deliberate than the other. Likely the enforcer. Not just muscle, something more methodical, like a tank that calculates before it crushes. His arms stayed close to his body, fists clenched. No flair. No unnecessary movement. The figure on the left was leaner, but there was twitch energy in his stance. Slight head tilt when Rollins spoke. A visible breath when the crowd got louder. Like a spark waiting for ignition. Possibly the wild card. Or the most unstable piece on the board. Reigns positioned himself slightly ahead of them at all times. He never turned his back. They never passed him. The hierarchy was unspoken but undeniable. Roman commands. They follow. Now here's where it gets interesting. People began speculating instantly about the identities behind the masks. Theories exploded online. Let's dissect the most talked about possibilities, based on size, movement, known affiliations, and backstage reports. First candidate, Jacob Fatu. The connection is obvious. Member of the legendary Anoa'i family. Former MLW World Heavyweight Champion. A beast in the ring. And criminally underutilized in the WWE spotlight so far. Jacob has Roman's size, presence, and bloodline. He also has a history of no-nonsense brutality that would fit perfectly in this version of the Shield. His footwork matches the figure on the right, heavy, grounded. The kind of presence that doesn't need theatrics to be threatening. If that's him, this new Shield has teeth. Second candidate, Braun Breaker. The wildcard theory. Some argue he fits the figure on the left, shorter, fast, twitch muscles, power-packed frame. A second-generation athlete with pedigree and potential. But Breaker's energy doesn't quite match the restraint shown in this appearance. Braun's always been explosive, loud, dominant. This soldier was colder. Controlled. Less show, more shadow. Third theory, Solo Sikoa, rebranded. This one picked up traction fast, mostly because of Solo's recent absence from television. If Roman is severing ties with the bloodline, then reabsorbing Solo into a new, stripped-down faction would make sense, especially if Solo has been brainwashed, repurposed, or reset to become more than just Roman's cousin. The problem with this theory is timing. Solo left under chaotic circumstances, and his loyalty was always under scrutiny. Reinstating him this silently doesn't quite track, unless WWE is playing long. Another possibility gaining heat. NXT standouts like Carmelo Hayes or Ilya Dragunov being repackaged. If WWE is trying to plant the seeds of a future empire, pulling in fresh blood who can hold their own in a main event atmosphere makes sense. Carmelo would bring speed and confidence. Ilya would bring intensity. But neither seems likely to hide behind a mask this long. Their styles are built around identity and individuality. These soldiers weren't showcasing anything unique. They were uniform. That's the opposite of Hayes and Dragunov. Some fans even suggest this isn't about current stars at all. That these two may be outsiders, indie killers groomed in silence. Hired mercenaries. Wrestlers who haven't stepped foot on a major WWE stage before but were trained specifically for this role. That theory is harder to verify, but there's a chilling logic to it. If Roman's mission is to erase the past, why not bring in unknowns? Faceless avatars of justice warped into judgment. Weapons, not personalities. And then there's the final theory, the most sinister. That these men aren't supposed to be recognized. That we're not supposed to know who they are. Because they're not meant to be superstars. They're meant to be reminders. Every time Seth steps in the ring, every time Paul Heyman picks up a mic, these men are a message. They're the past Seth buried, made flesh. They're the guilt Paul never admitted, made real. They are, in every sense, the new standard. Because this shield doesn't protect. It hunts. Let's also consider the branding implications. WWE rarely does anything by accident. The red slash marks. The corrupted siren. The message on the screen, justice is dead. Now comes judgment. This faction is not here to restore anything. They're here to enforce something far more brutal. Not justice. Not fairness. Retribution. But not like the failed Retribution faction of years ago. This isn't anti-authority. It's not anarchist. This is execution. Roman didn't bring friends. He brought sentinels. And they don't speak. They don't pose. They don't play to the crowd. Their job isn't to steal the show. Their job is to silence it. We've yet to see them in action. No physicality. No match. No beatdown. And that's what makes them more terrifying. Because we don't know what they're capable of. We only know what Roman's capable of. And if these two are anything like him, this isn't a faction, it's a firing squad. As the days pass, the anticipation only builds. How long will they remain unnamed? Will they strike next week? Will Seth retaliate? Will Paul Heyman try to negotiate, or will he run? Every major faction in WWE history has had a reveal moment. An unmasking. A debut match. A promo. This one hasn't. And that silence? That refusal to follow the formula? That's power. Roman Reigns has rewritten every rule since he became the tribal chief. Now he's burning that entire book. This new shield is his final rewrite. And what started as a reunion is now an act of war. From the moment Roman Reigns emerged from the smoke with two shadows flanking him, it wasn't just the arena that went quiet, it was Seth Rollins. The man who prides himself on being unshakable, who calls himself the architect, who built his legacy on calculated chaos, suddenly looked like he'd seen something he couldn't quite process. And that's what makes this moment historic. Not that Roman Reigns returned. Not even that he brought a new shield. What made this moment unforgettable is that, for the first time ever, Seth Rollins looked afraid. Not shaken. Not rattled. Not selling fear for the sake of storyline tension. Real fear. The kind you don't practice in promos. The kind you can't fake in front of a camera. Let's dissect that. From the instant the lights came back on, Seth's posture shifted. He wasn't standing square anymore. His shoulders sloped. His feet weren't planted, they slid back half an inch. And then came the involuntary micro-expressions, clues only visible on HD replay. His jaw tightened. He blinked twice, rapidly. His nostrils flared. These are not performance cues. These are instinctive responses from a man whose brain has gone into threat detection mode. And then came the eyes. That half second when Roman locked in his stare and the camera caught Seth dead center. It was like he was looking into something he didn't understand. And that's the worst kind of fear, uncertainty. Seth Rollins has made a living out of control. When he betrayed Roman and Ambrose back in 2014, it wasn't just an act of aggression. It was a calculated, premeditated move to vault himself to the top. He didn't destroy the Shield emotionally, he did it tactically. But last night, he saw something he couldn't control. A Roman Reigns that doesn't want the title. A Roman Reigns that doesn't want dominance. A Roman Reigns that wants him. That's a different kind of war. In the past, Rollins could rely on being smarter, faster, more politically savvy. He outmaneuvered the authority. He survived Brock Lesnar. He played mind games with Bray Wyatt, Cody Rhodes, Edge. But none of those opponents came back from exile with a singular, personal vendetta and two faceless soldiers trained to end careers. This isn't a rivalry. It's a reckoning. Psychologists will tell you that fear in highly competent individuals doesn't surface through panic, it leaks out through hesitation. Doubt. The kind of doubt that slows decision-making by milliseconds. And in a business where milliseconds mean the difference between reversal and destruction, doubt is lethal. Let's go back to Seth's body language again. He didn't raise the title. That alone was telling. Every other confrontation in his career, the belt goes up. Held high like a shield, a signal that he's the standard. Last night? It hung loosely by his side. Like it didn't matter. Like he knew it wouldn't protect him. And then there's Paul Heyman. When Roman pointed at him, Seth didn't step forward. He didn't defend. He didn't even flinch. He looked at Paul the way a passenger looks at a pilot when the engine shuts off midair. With the realization that no one's flying the plane. It was subtle. But real. The irony is brutal. For years, Seth Rollins has been the aggressor. The manipulator. The backstabber. The man behind the curtain. But this version of Roman Reigns? He doesn't need a curtain. He doesn't need manipulation. He's not asking for power. He's here to break something. And Seth knows it. This fear didn't start last night. It started the second Roman disappeared. The second he left the bloodline, the titles, and the empire behind. Because deep down, Seth knew Roman wasn't gone. He was waiting. Watching. Calculating the same way Seth once did. Only this time, Seth isn't the architect. He's the structure. And Roman has come to tear it down. There's a reason Seth didn't tweet after Raw. No emojis. No fire gifs. No sarcastic follow-ups. Silence. The kind of silence that says more than words ever could. Because Rollins isn't just facing an opponent. He's facing the ghost of every sin he committed. The chair shot that ended the Shield? It's still echoing. The titles he stole, the alliances he broke, the men he left in his wake, they all led to this. Roman didn't come back to compete. He came back to collect. And Seth Rollins, for the first time in his career, isn't planning his next move. He's just trying to survive the next moment. Roman Reigns didn't just return last Monday. He returned alone. No Usos. No Solo Sikoa. No wise man at his side. The Bloodline, once the most dominant faction in WWE history, is nowhere to be seen. So, the question that burned across social media faster than any promo was simple: what happened to the Bloodline? Let's rewind. For over 3 years, Roman Reigns ruled WWE with absolute authority. Not just as a champion, but as a patriarch. The tribal chief. The head of the table. He wasn't just defending a title, he was defending a dynasty. Flanked by Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman, Roman didn't just win matches, he dictated careers. The Bloodline was more than a stable. It was a kingdom. But as all empires do, this one began to crack from within. The first fracture was subtle. Jey Uso's doubt. The emotional war that began during the early stages of Roman's reign, where Jey was forced into servitude, wasn't fully resolved. Even when Jey bent the knee, fans could see it was only a matter of time before something snapped. Then came Jimmy. His return, his defiance, his rebellion. For months, the Usos were the emotional spine of the Bloodline story. They bled, fought, and even cried under Roman's thumb. And then they finally rebelled. Superkick heard around the world. Betrayal. It should have ended there. But Roman didn't fall. Solo Sikoa arrived. The enforcer. Silent, cold, loyal. He destroyed anyone Roman pointed at. But silence is not the same as loyalty. And by the end of 2023, even Solo's silence began to feel less like obedience and more like resistance. The final months before Roman disappeared were quiet. Too quiet. No dramatic blow-up. No final match. No segment with Roman being dethroned. He didn't lose in battle. He vanished. No injury. No explanation. The tribal chief went dark. So, what happened between then and now? Let's start with Solo. He hasn't appeared on WWE television in weeks. No injury report. No storyline write-off. His social media accounts have been dormant. WWE's own website hasn't issued a status update. Sources backstage describe his status as locked down. Some insiders claim he's been present at events but hidden away from talent. Not working matches. Not seen in the halls. So, is Solo still part of the Bloodline? More importantly, was he part of Roman's return? Here's the thing. The man who walked out with Roman didn't behave like Solo. Solo Sikoa was always reactive. A pit bull waiting to snap. The two new Shield members didn't have Solo's Twitch energy. They were restrained. Disciplined. Cold. So, either Solo's been replaced. Or worse. Solo is next. Now let's talk about the Usos. Jey Uso moved to Raw. WWE officially split him from the Bloodline after the fallout of their family implosion. He's since built his own identity. New music. New gear. Fan favorite. Jey is clearly distancing himself from the Roman Reigns legacy. But that distance doesn't mean safety. Because if Roman is back for betrayal, Jey's name might be on the list. Jimmy, on the other hand, has disappeared from TV entirely. After his own clashes with Roman and Solo, he faded into silence. There are rumors of injury. Others of creative limbo. But in the world of WWE, silence is never just silence. It's set up. So, here's the truth no one wants to admit: the Bloodline didn't break. It imploded. Not in one explosive moment, but in slow, suffocating silence. Roman's absence was never about stepping back. It was about letting everything fall. Letting them betray each other. Letting the kingdom rot. So, he could come back not as a king, but as a judge. When he said, "You betrayed me once," it wasn't just to Seth. It was to everyone. To Paul. To Solo. To Jay. To Jimmy. The Shield was about unity. The bloodline was about obedience. Now, Roman walks alone with two unknown shadows behind him, because he's done trusting family. He's done leading. Now, he's hunting. And whatever happened to the bloodline behind closed doors, it ended in silence. Now it will be settled in blood. Paul Heyman is always in the center of chaos. Not because he causes it, but because he calculates it. He doesn't react, he predicts. He doesn't panic, he pivots. At least, that's what we've always believed. Until Monday. Until Roman Reigns returned, stood at ringside, and pointed not at Seth Rollins, not at a title, not at the crowd, but at Paul Heyman. That single finger shattered the illusion. Heyman's mouth moved, but no words came out. He didn't step forward. He didn't cut a promo. He didn't defend himself. He backed away. Like he already knew what the gesture meant. Like he'd been dreading that exact moment. So, let's ask the question, did Paul Heyman betray Roman Reigns? Or is he simply the next name on a growing list of enemies Roman has been waiting to confront? To answer that, we have to dig into who Paul Heyman is, and what role he's really been playing. Heyman has always been a chess master disguised as a hype man. From ECW to Lesnar, from Punk to Roman, he's never just been a manager. He's been the architect behind the curtain. The one whispering strategies, pulling strings, spinning narratives. But for the past 3 years, under the tribal chief's rule, Heyman looked different. He wasn't barking orders. He was kneeling. A man of conviction and reverence. The wise man. And for a long time it looked real. He cried when Roman demanded obedience. He flinched when Roman raised his voice. He even took a Superman punch from Brock Lesnar on Roman's behalf. But loyalty has an expiration date in Heyman's world. Let's rewind. When the bloodline fractured, Heyman started drifting. Subtly. No grand speech. No major turn. Just slight shifts in tone. Less tribal chief adoration. More Seth is the future. More strategic silence. Then came the unexpected partnership. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. 2 men with no love lost. 2 men who built their legacies through betrayal. Suddenly aligned. No explanation. No clear purpose. Just Heyman standing in Seth's corner. Whispering again. It wasn't announced like a new faction. There was no name. No branding. Just quiet cooperation. But that's what made it dangerous. Paul Heyman has never stood next to anyone without thinking 10 moves ahead. So, was he betting against Roman? Did he assume the tribal chief was truly gone? Did he choose Seth Rollins as his next champion to ride into the next era? If so, that would explain Roman's return message. You betrayed me once. Let's remember, this isn't the first time Roman has felt betrayal from Heyman. Back when Lesnar returned, Paul stood in the middle. Trying to serve 2 masters. Claiming to be loyal to Roman while helping Brock. It didn't work. Roman turned. Brutalized him. Took him back only after total submission. But what if that forgiveness was temporary? What if Roman never truly trusted him again? What if this return isn't just about vengeance, it's about removing liabilities? Because that's what Paul Heyman is now. A liability. He's no longer the wise man. He's a strategist for a rival. A man hiding behind a new champion while pretending not to be a threat. But Roman sees everything. And Roman doesn't forget. Sources backstage have reported tension between Heyman and creative in recent weeks. One insider claimed Heyman pushed for more mic time. Another said he refused to appear during a Bloodline recap package. Paranoia? Or calculated distance? Maybe Heyman saw the storm coming. Maybe he thought Rollins was his life raft. But Roman didn't buy it. And now, Heyman's silence is deafening. Since the return, he hasn't posted. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't issued a statement. Nothing. And when the show ended Monday night, Paul didn't stick around. He left the arena before the camera stopped rolling. No press. No follow-up. Not even backstage footage. People say Heyman always survives. But that's the myth. The truth? Heyman survives when he chooses the right side. And this time, he may have chosen wrong. It started with unity. 3 black-clad figures emerging from the crowd. No pyro. No catchphrases. Just force. The Shield wasn't built like other factions. It didn't arrive with pomp or showmanship. It arrived as a warning. A statement. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. 3 unknowns from developmental, debuted at Survivor Series 2012 and immediately became the most dangerous force WWE had seen in a decade. They weren't friends. They were soldiers with a mission, justice. And for a time, they delivered. The Shield tore through the roster like a wrecking crew. Cena, Orton, Bryan, The Undertaker, no one was safe. They worked like a unit, breathed in rhythm, moved like predators. They weren't a tag team. They were a revolution. Then came the betrayal. June 2, 2014. The night everything changed. After defeating Evolution, after standing tall as a cohesive force, Seth Rollins took a chair and drove it into Roman Reigns' back. Then Ambrose. Not out of rage. Not for vengeance. For opportunity. That was the moment the Shield died. Or so we thought. Seth moved on to the Authority. Roman began his solo ascent. Dean Ambrose unraveled into chaos and intensity. But the echoes of that betrayal never stopped. Every time Seth and Roman crossed paths, it wasn't just about titles. It was about trust. Or more accurately, the destruction of it. Because Roman didn't just lose a teammate that night. He lost the one man he believed wouldn't stab him in the back. People remember the chair shot. What they forget is the look on Roman's face when he turned around. He wasn't angry. He was stunned. Betrayal isn't rage. Betrayal is silence. And Roman carried that silence for 10 years. Even when the trio reunited temporarily, the chemistry was never the same. The trust never came back. Dean left the company. Seth climbed the ranks. Roman became the tribal chief. But the story was never finished. Because Roman never got closure. He moved on. He dominated. But he never responded. Until now. His words on Monday night weren't just a threat. They were a callback. You betrayed me once. 10 years of history boiled down to one sentence. Roman's return isn't about revenge in the present. It's about reopening an old wound and making sure this time, it scars everyone. This isn't about a match. It's not even about Seth's title. It's about rewriting the ending. Because for Roman, the story of the Shield didn't end in 2014. It paused. Now, a decade later, Roman is back to finish what was started, but not on Seth's terms. On his. There's no reunion coming. No redemption arc. There's only justice, corrupted into judgment. The Shield fell because of betrayal. Now it returns as vengeance. And the man who swung the first chair shot may finally meet the consequences he never thought would catch him. When Roman Reigns first declared himself the tribal chief, it was about power. Control. Legacy. He wore gold. He sat at the head of the table. He demanded acknowledgement. But the man who walked down that ramp on Monday wasn't a ruler. He wasn't draped in a title. He wasn't holding a scepter or flanked by bloodline. He didn't come back to be acknowledged. He came back to make a statement. And that statement wasn't about dominance. It was about war. For years, Roman Reigns' rise was meticulously crafted. Every promo, every entrance, every win, part of a larger structure. The tribal chief persona was a fortress, built to protect his image, his reign, his authority. But fortresses aren't designed for attack. They're meant to withstand. This new Roman? He's not defending anything. He's not claiming territory. He's burning it. And that changes everything. Because war isn't strategic. War is personal. On Monday, Roman didn't bring his title. He didn't call for a match. He didn't ask for a stipulation or demand a contract signing. He simply pointed. And that gesture carried more weight than any title belt ever could. Because it meant he's not here to rule anymore. He's here to destroy. There's a moment when kings realize the crown isn't enough. When they stop sitting on thrones and start marching to the battlefield themselves. Roman Reigns reached that moment in silence, far from the cameras. His silence since his last appearance wasn't absence. It was evolution. He watched the empire collapse. Watched Seth Rollins ascend. Watched Paul Heyman pivot. And then he returned. Not to reclaim. But to erase. When Roman took over as the tribal chief, he built an empire of fear. Wrestlers bowed. Opponents stalled. Commentators whispered. But fear alone isn't sustainable. Eventually, people stop kneeling. And that's when war begins. So Roman stopped playing emperor. He stopped demanding loyalty. He built something else. A machine. With 2 soldiers. And a purpose. The Shield 2.0, if you can even call it that, isn't a team. It's a message. Roman doesn't need brothers anymore. He doesn't need cousins. He needs executioners. And he brought them. The mission has changed. This isn't about being the face of the company. This isn't about breaking records or carrying belts. Roman's done with symbolism. Now he wants blood. And that shift makes him more dangerous than ever. Because a man fighting for a title has something to lose. But a man fighting to destroy something? He's already accepted the cost. He's not here to negotiate. He's here to finish what was started 10 years ago with a chair shot. Roman's new war doesn't have rules. It doesn't have honor. It has only one goal, Seth Rollins' reckoning. This is a scorched earth campaign. And every alliance Seth has made, every shortcut he's taken, every piece of legacy he's built, Roman intends to rip it all down. Not as the tribal chief. Not as the champion. But as the man who was betrayed. The Shield was built for justice. This version? It's built for war. And Roman Reigns? He's not here to take the top spot. He's here to bury everyone who ever stood on it. When Roman Reigns walked backstage after his return, no one followed him. No handshakes. No smiles. No congratulations. Just silence. Because in that moment, everyone in the locker room understood something. This wasn't just about Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns had returned, and the message was clear. No one is safe. The atmosphere backstage that night, according to sources, shifted from business as usual to ice cold. Even veterans, guys who've seen every comeback, every heel turn, every angle, kept their distance. No one wants to make eye contact with a man who just declared war on his past. Especially not when you're part of that past. One talent, who asked not to be named, said it plainly, "We thought we knew what Roman's ceiling was. I don't think there is one anymore." People aren't just reacting to the return. They're reacting to the way he returned. No entrance video. No music. No celebration. Just a blackout, a message, and 2 shadows. That's not hype. That's strategy. That's fear. Backstage, younger talent reportedly began comparing notes. Who had past beef with Roman? Who stood with Seth during the rise? Who posted something disrespectful during Roman's hiatus? Because now, every word matters. Every match. Every comment. Roman isn't walking back into a locker room. He's walking into a war zone. And people are choosing sides. Veterans like Randy Orton reportedly kept their thoughts private. But the look on his face in gorilla position after the segment said more than a press release ever could. He wasn't impressed. He wasn't excited. He was calculating. Even someone like Cody Rhodes, a man who once had a WrestleMania moment stolen by Roman, kept quiet. No tweet. No promo. Just a glance toward the main event scene that now belongs to chaos. Then there's the Rollins circle, or what's left of it. Guys like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and even Finn Balor all have past ties to Seth. But do those ties hold up when Roman Reigns is putting people on lists instead of cards? Because Roman isn't just targeting the man who betrayed him. He's targeting everyone who helped him rise. And that includes friends. So, the locker room is watching. Waiting. Will Roman attack? Will Seth respond? Will Paul Heyman show his face again? Everyone's walking on glass. Because they've seen what Roman can do when he's playing the game. Now he's not playing anymore. Now he's hunting. And the rest of the roster? They're wondering when their names get called. By 10 p.m. Monday night, the internet was broken. Not figuratively. Literally. WWE servers lagged. YouTube's comment section exploded. Twitter, or X, as it's now branded, had Roman, Shield, and Paul Heyman all trending worldwide within minutes. No promo package. No teaser. No insider leak. Roman Reigns returned with zero build-up. And rewrote the temperature of the entire wrestling industry in less than 3 minutes. And the fans knew it. The initial wave of reactions was pure adrenaline. What did I just watch? He's back. Seth looks like he saw death walk down the ramp. Shield 3.0? Who are those guys? Paul's dead. Man's straight up dead. Thousands of comments in under 10 minutes. No graphics, no countdowns, no hype machine. Just one act of storytelling, perfectly executed. Then the speculation started. In wrestling, moments are the match. But mystery is the fuel. And Roman didn't just create a return, he created a storm of questions. Who are the new Shield members? This one immediately took over Reddit threads, TikTok breakdowns, and Discord server debates. Most popular theory? Jacob Fatu. He fits the build, the lineage, the silence. Fans point to his unmatched aggression and his eerie presence in MLW as a perfect match for the enforcer role. But not everyone buys it. Another name trending is Bronson Reed. Some fans argue his intimidating build and recent shift in TV time suggest a dark repackaging. Others argue he's too vocal to fit this version of Roman's faction. Then came the wild cards. Fans pulled old NXT footage. They posted side-by-side frame captures. One even matched the posture of the left side soldier to NXT's Oba Femi based on shoulder rotation and gait pattern. Are they right? Maybe. But that's the beauty of it. The mystery is the power. Then there's the deeper narrative theory. One viral post had over 300,000 likes by Tuesday morning. It read, "Roman's not bringing back the Shield. He's weaponizing the memory of it to haunt Seth with the ghost of his worst decision." That's not just smart. It's true. Because these two soldiers aren't meant to be brothers. They're meant to be consequences. Meanwhile, theories about Paul Heyman exploded. Did he betray Roman during his absence? Did he align with Seth too quickly? Was the alliance part of a long con? Or was Paul just trying to survive? One post summed it up best: Paul Heyman is the smartest man in wrestling. But you don't outsmart the man you called tribal chief for 3 years. You don't survive that kind of loyalty breaking. Fan-made videos flooded TikTok and Instagram Reels. Frame-by-frame breakdowns of Seth's facial expressions. Zoom-ins on Roman's vest. Analysis of the red X, comparisons to past betrayals. Someone even posted a 10-minute conspiracy breakdown on YouTube titled, "Why Roman Reigns is Building a Shadow Empire," with voiceover narration, eerie music, and grainy edits like it was a true crime documentary. Over 1 million views in 18 hours. This is what WWE doesn't manufacture: organic obsession. Because this isn't just about a feud. It's about betrayal, memory, guilt, and reckoning. And fans are all in. The excitement is deeper than just wanting a match. It's about knowing a war is coming, and nobody knows what kind. Is it a takeover? A psychological siege? A total character assassination? And who else is at risk? Every past Shield opponent, every former ally of Roman's, every Paul Heyman client, fans are now connecting dots like this is a political thriller. Fantasy booking posts are flooding every forum. Some want Roman vs. Seth at WrestleMania, no title, just blood. Others want tag wars, faction wars, hell, even an all-out invasion angle where Roman's faction begins targeting entire divisions. Everyone has a theory. Everyone has a prediction. But no one knows the truth. Because Roman Reigns didn't come back to hype anything. He came back to say one sentence. "You betrayed me once." And every fan in the world is now watching that moment over and over again, frame by frame. Because they know. That sentence wasn't the beginning. It was the detonation. Roman Reigns is back. But this isn't the Roman we remember. He didn't return to take his seat at the head of the table. He returned to flip the whole table over. Now that the dust from his return is still settling, and the aftershocks are only beginning, it's time to ask the real question: what comes next? This isn't just about storylines. It's about moves. Strategic moves. Calculated decisions. A map of destruction. So, let's break it down like war room analysts. Piece by piece. Start with the target, Seth Rollins. Roman made it personal. He didn't talk about championships. He didn't name-drop brands. He didn't refer to factions or tribes. He addressed one man. One moment. "You betrayed me once." Roman isn't chasing a title. He's chasing accountability. And in his world, that doesn't end with a handshake or a main event pin. It ends when Rollins is broken. So, what are Roman's options? Roman doesn't need to attack physically, not yet. He already rattled Seth without lifting a finger. The smartest move now would be to drag it out. Appear unpredictably. Distract from a distance. Cut the legs out from under Rollins by ruining his stability, interfere in key matches without touching him. Target his allies, one by one. Sabotage Paul Heyman without saying a word. Keep Seth looking over his shoulder until he loses sleep. Loses composure. Loses the thing that makes him Seth, his control. Roman doesn't need to pin him. He needs to make him unravel in front of the world. The next step? Strike. But not in the main event. Not in a fair fight. Roman's new faction isn't about honor, it's about efficiency. Imagine the following timeline: Seth prepares for a title defense. A backstage attack takes out his opponent. Not Rollins. The challenger. Seth is left without a match, without momentum, and without direction. Or this: one of Seth's matches ends with the lights going black again. Roman appears on the screen. Not speaking. Just staring. And then Seth's opponent turns on him. Roman could destabilize the roster by making everyone a suspect. If no one knows who Roman's aligned with, Seth can't trust anyone. Roman pointed at Heyman. That wasn't just symbolism, it was foreshadowing. There's no world where Paul escapes untouched. Roman could drag Heyman out. Force a public apology. A confession. Humiliate the man who once served him like a god. Or he could destroy him in the shadows. Use Paul as bait. Let Seth try to protect him. Because if Seth defends Paul, it means he's emotionally invested. And if he's emotionally invested, Roman owns him. We haven't seen the new Shield move yet. Not a punch. Not a hold. That's intentional. The longer they remain silent, the more terrifying they become. But when they do strike, it has to be definitive. Their first target shouldn't be Seth. It should be someone Seth respects. Someone the audience roots for. Someone who won't see it coming. A top babyface. Imagine Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens walking to the ring, only to be mauled by Roman's soldiers. No promo. No motive. Just silence and violence. It tells the world, this isn't about titles. This is about message. Every path leads to one arena. WrestleMania. If WWE is smart, and right now, they're playing a near-perfect hand, they'll slow burn this entire arc. Roman vs. Seth. No title on the line. Just history. Just betrayal. Just vengeance. The promo package writes itself, flashback to the Shield. Seth's chair shot. Roman rising as tribal chief. Their run-ins. Then silence. Then return. No interference. No gold. Just one match. One war. One final reckoning. What people forget is this: Seth wasn't the only person who benefited from Roman's absence. Cody Rhodes built his redemption arc. Gunther rose as the most dominant Intercontinental Champion. Jey Uso walked away and became a solo star. All of them exist because the Empire crumbled. If Roman's mission is about more than just revenge, if it's about erasure, then those names are at risk too. Roman doesn't have to say it. He just has to show up. Cody's promo time gets cut short. Gunther's reign ends unexpectedly. Jey Uso finds a letter. A message. A symbol. There's no limit to the scope of this war. Because it's not about the bloodline anymore. It's not about brands. It's about retribution. Roman's new mission doesn't recognize belts. It recognizes betrayal. And anyone who let Roman fall, even silently, might now be marked. If this path continues, Roman's ultimate evolution could be devastating. He's no longer a character. He's a consequence. An entity that doesn't compete, he condemns. A destroyer of legacies. This version of Roman could be used to shut down storylines, reset characters, even write people off TV in terrifying, final ways. He becomes the one thing no one wants knocking at their door. Not because he's unbeatable, but because if he's showing up, you're guilty of something.